Esther chose these readings for our celebration this evening, and I'm not surprised at her choice. Beautiful choices. And she wouldn't say this because she's too humble, but they do complement the way she has lived her life among us in a very real way. The Beatitudes. The Gospel is about the Beatitudes, and speak of blessing. And Esther has blessed us abundantly with her expression of the Beatitudes for 7 years in our parish. And so we have much to thank God for, and much to thank Sister Esther for. As you might know, the Beatitudes are at the very front of the beginning of Matthew's Gospel. And so at the beginning of Matthew's Gospel, there's the annunciation of Jesus' birth and how it all happens, and then he's baptized, he goes out into the desert, and boom, there's Jesus on the mountain teaching the Beatitudes, right at the very beginning of his ministry. And Jesus gives this teaching about how to live a blessed life. Maybe contemporary language might say how to live a purposeful life, or a meaningful life, or a worthwhile life, maybe all of them together. And he does it with words. In his words, he's basically saying, I think, if you want to be blessed with peace, be a peacemaker in your own environment. If you want compassion and mercy in the world, give mercy and compassion. If you want what is just and right, want people to be included and take on their rightful role in society and church, then do what you can in your local area to make sure that happens. That's being a beatitude. After Jesus speaks his words, he lives these words out in his actions. It's kind of like he's saying to the crowds, if you really want to know what these beatitudes are about, I'll show you with my actions. And so the rest of the Gospel of Matthew is all about Jesus' actions. He's in action. He's there feeding those in need. That's what the Beatitudes are about. As he meets people, he affirms their goodness no matter who they are, what their nationality, their background might be, their age, their place in society, their status. He affirms their goodness, and first and foremost, that God loves them. He celebrates and enjoys life. He has a blast being a human being on this earth. That's one of the things we often forget. Jesus had a great time. He enjoyed being among us. He enjoyed nature, all those things. And in so doing, he found time to be alone in prayer. He found a time for silence. He found a time to be in nature. Much of his teaching are about things in nature. He spent time with the scriptures, the Hebrew scriptures, and he nurtured that part of his interior life from the outside world. He was with the sick and the dying, and he found purpose and meaning in being with them, and they found purpose and meaning by his presence with them. He was especially close to the outcasts in society, those who were named as unclean and unfit to be in the community, unsafe to be around. He helped those take their rightful place in society and in synagogue, and it probably got him rooted out of the synagogue so that he wasn't even welcome there, especially women. He especially invited women into their place, and was quite prophetic in that. He was ecumenical in that he saw God in all people of all faith backgrounds and traditions. All those he met, it wasn't a barrier for him what their background might be. Esther has caught on to this way of Jesus over her years, and I think it started out pretty young in life, and has lived it among us, certainly as we've witnessed it for the past 7 years. Sister Esther is a woman of prayer, first and foremost. She takes time alone to be in prayer, and she's faithful to that. She's in nature, she reflects on that and sees God's presence deeply in it. As a matter of fact, if you ever meet her on the trail, which is a pretty good chance you would, sometime during the day, or on her skis, or out for a walk, it's nature that she speaks to her, and God speaks to her through that. She attends to the scriptures. That's why we got these particular choices, because last Monday she was praying with the Beatitudes, and she phoned and says, Bill, this is the reading, so it comes out of her prayer. It takes time for extended retreats and those things. And that's allowed Esther to affirm goodness in everyone she's met, and assure them, first and foremost, of God's love. That God loves you, God loves you, God loves you, God's a God of love. That's her message. She has chosen to be close especially to those who are sick or shut in and dying, and their loved ones. She has taken her place as a woman in society and in church, and she is strong and prophetic in challenging us to be much more just and inclusive in our church, including the ordination of women. Good for Esther. She's attended humbly to the poor in amazing ways. I put down ecumenical big time. And so we look out among you tonight, many faces of different faith traditions, and she's loved in our ministerial association. She's a gift in our community, and so she has a wonderful capacity to see God, and is not worried about the boundaries of our walls, our church communities. She helps to move in and out of our church communities as a sister among us all. And so it's a gift for all of our faith communities. And she's also been a woman who's nurtured fun and humor and delight. And that's a key part of who she is. I'm just going to share 3 images, just so she told me she wanted me about 40 minutes long here tonight. So. Just something simple, she said. So anyway, 3 little stories about Esther, just little images that speak about who she is. When the Olympics were on, Esther was tired all through the day because she was up all night watching those Olympics. But one Olympic moment, of course, she was a big fan of the women's hockey team, and one of the great fans. But she did find a little time to watch that last male hockey game when Crosby scored his goal. And it was in the early Sunday evening. And so I'd been to Canterbury, kind of almost wanted to cancel Mass because it's 5 o'clock, and so I watched a little bit of the first period and headed out and tried to stay at the top of the hill so the radio would come in and get the, how it works, and get down those gullies and go out. So stayed out in my car until about 2 minutes before Mass and listened to the game. It was 1-0 for Canada. So I came back, there was 5 minutes left in the game. And the game was tied up, and then a few minutes into overtime, Crosby scored. It wasn't 15 seconds, the phone rang. 325-2202. Sisters of Notre Dame. So I picked the phone up and I go, woo! Esther's on the other end doing the same thing. So and we didn't, I don't think we spoke a word, we just shouted at each other and hung up. That was it. So. That's what you do when you live alone. It's called surviving celibacy, it's called. The other image of Esther is an Easter vigil here a few years ago. Esther was just in the second pew back here, maybe the very front one where Charlie and Margaret and Vicky are. And anyway, so we just get into the lighting of the candles, and our good friend Joseph, who has takes up residence at Woodstock once every couple months or so, came in. And Joseph is a man who lives on the streets, and just a beautiful man. He's a real presence of God among us, and he's gentle and kind and poor, and he doesn't get many showers. And so anyway, so there he comes, and of course he knows Sister Esther because he's been there to get fed and all that kind of stuff over the years. And he sits right beside Esther. And of course, the first time he's been inside for a while, so the heat kind of got to him, and he falls asleep on Esther's shoulder. And I tell you, Esther, you're allergic to incense, probably could have used some that night. After, Esther says, Jesus just came right in and sat right beside me. And I said, there's Matthew 25, live in color. That's Esther's faith. And then the other thing about Esther is many times we've heard this at a parish council meeting or a pastoral council meeting or finance council meeting or any kind of meeting. Esther's often invited to pray because of how deeply it touches our hearts when she prays. And one of her prayers, and she often says, she begins by saying, Jesus, we just know how much you enjoyed being with us this evening. We know you had a great time being with us. And I said, that is a healthy spirituality. And that would always be there, but that's what's in her heart, that's how she sees it, that's how she lives it. And so to have that psalm read, that Charlie read, it just sums up your life, Esther, and who you are. That God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. And sometimes God uses us, and you've taught us that God can use us for that we do help and trouble each other. Therefore, we do not need to fear life. Be still and know that I am God. Take time in stillness to know that we're with God, that God's with us. Awaken, wake up to the world, to justice. Befriend justice and mercy. Do you not know that you bear my love? That's who we are. We bear God's love. Who among you will respond? Esther, me again. Oh, bless the one you know all our hearts. You are ever with us. May love ever guide our lives. So Esther, you've taught us, and you've lived a purposeful and worthwhile life, a meaningful life. You brought it to us, and you've taught us how to do it. Thank you so much.